Nah, brah.
Make jokes about
Nah, brah.
Don't fucking say that. God damn it. What was that?
Nah, brah.
I don't even want to comment on it anymore. You're just ruining my mojo.
That's the episode title right there. Nah, brah.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Nerd You're Looking For podcast. My name is Tyler Hunt, alongside my co-host, as always, Pat Kuhn. What's up, Pat?
Not a whole lot, man. You forgot the little, we're a weekly nerd culture podcast. This is why you don't do the intros.
Hey, we're a weekly nerd culture podcast, and we discuss nerd culture through various topics, including comic books, nerd news, etc. We'll get into it. I'm not good at this. What's up, Pat?
Not a whole lot. Today was kind of awful at work. I think I start off every episode like that. I just, like last episode, I was just really looking forward to recording.
So you're like, oh, I really fucking hate my job, and this is the only escape I have from my mundane life.
It's sad but true.
Sucks about work, man. I don't know what to say.
Yep. Yeah, it's not great.
I mean, anything you want to get into?
No, just, you know, the usual.
Yeah.
Some truck driver told me I look like Ron Howard.
I saw you post that on Facebook the other day.
He's like, has anyone ever mistaken you for Ron Howard before? I was like, no. I mean, yeah, it's happened a million times, but I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. And he's like, oh, you should Google him. I was like, dude, I fucking know who Ron Howard is. He's like, I got mistaken for a crackhead on The Wire once. I was like, well, that's a weird thing to say. Like, he said it with like a hint of pride in his voice. I was like, dude, that's not something you should be proud of.
I don't think you look like Ron Howard.
If I grew my hair out a little bit, I would look like Ron Howard.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe. I don't see it.
I'm a hipster Ron Howard.
There you go.
Anyways, if this is your first episode of the Nerd You're Looking For podcast, we start off each episode by just kind of checking in with each other. We call it What We're Into. So, Tyler, what are you into this week?
I had a hard time kind of getting into something this week because, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about Justified here in a little bit, and I was pretty much binging the last season. So I can't really say I'm into Justified because we're going to do a whole segment about it. You
waited until like the last minute too, because we talked about this like 2 months ago. I was like, oh, you caught up? Can we do something like this? You're like, oh yeah, I only got a few more episodes left.
Well, I was caught up at the time and I just fell away from it. And we got done recording last week's episode and you're like, so, how far are you on Justified? And I'm like, why? It's like, well, we're talking about it next week. It's like, shit. Yeah, I'm caught up. We're good to go there.
All right, cool.
but I mean, besides Justified, I've been watching my normal shows, and a lot of them that we've talked about the last few weeks, like Undateable did a cool thing this week where they recorded live, which was really funny.
I don't mean to cut you off, but it just got renewed for a third season.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, they really just announced it either today or yesterday, something like that.
And I listened to that Nerdist podcast with them that you were talking about. That was really funny as well. Just a lot of great TV shows kind of coming to an end this season. One that I talked about on the website, actually, when we first started doing the podcast, and I don't know that we've talked about it on the podcast, is Bob's Burgers.
Yep.
Do you watch Bob's Burgers?
I really want to get into it on Netflix, but there's so many other things I want to watch that it kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
It's kind of like how I view Friends. It's a good show to just kind of put on, and it's a really easy watch, obviously. Yeah. It's 20 minutes an episode. It goes by really quick, but it's really funny, and I think it's really underrated. It's kind of fine. It has its audience, and that's why it's lasted so many seasons, but it's obviously not on the same level that The Simpsons and Family Guy are kind of seen as. But it is a really funny show. The last 2 episodes of this season have been great. The first one was called Itty Bitty Ditty Committee. And it's the kids, the Bob's Burgers children, they form a band with some kids from school, and that's the name of their band. And then this most recent episode is called Eat Spray Linda, Linda being the mom, and it's her birthday, and it's just like she has this terrible day. And it follows that. But all in all, just a really hilarious show. Great voice talent. is involved with this show. A lot of great guest stars. I can't recommend it enough. It's hilarious.
That's awesome. I definitely will check it out one of these days.
Like any animated show, the first season's a little rough, and they kind of find their footing. So just stick with it. It's really good.
I actually watched the first few episodes, maybe like 3 or 4, when it first aired. Yeah. I really liked the pilot, and then it didn't really hold my attention after that.
The kids make the show too.
Oh yeah.
I can't even, the voice talent's just fantastic.
Yeah.
I forget what the actor's name who does Bob. He's awesome too. He's on Archer.
Something Benjamin.
Yeah. He's on Archer as well. He's done a lot of things, and it's just, they have really great chemistry. It's good stuff. Yeah.
Kristen Shaw. Yeah. Is one of the girls. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like the only girl, because the other females in the family are voiced by dudes.
Yeah.
And it's funny. But yeah, Bob's Burgers.
All right.
What do you
normally? I was gonna say normally you ask me, but whatever. I'll just go. I watched a movie on Netflix the other day, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I liked it. And I think you're gonna give me shit about it, but it's really awesome. It is called WolfCop.
WolfCop.
Yep.
I've heard of this. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's exactly what you would think it is. It is about a movie about a cop who ends up being a werewolf. Yeah. Hence the Wolf Cop. It's really fun. It's really funny, but it's not like it has a ton of jokes. It just, you kind of laugh at how absurd it is. There's literally a scene, the first time that he changes into a werewolf, he's going to the bathroom, and it's a really pretty graphic movie. And he's at the urinal, and all of a sudden he starts changing, and you just see his dick just turn into a wolf dick. I mean, it's really just crazy, and you're just laughing your ass off because how stupid crazy it is. And there's a wolf sex scene. Well, it's a werewolf. The wolf cop has sex with a human woman, and she ends up being a shapeshifter and ends up being like this really old woman. It's crazy. I mean, it has everything in this movie. Werewolf sex scene, shapeshifters. It's crazy. But, it's a lot of fun.
You sound like Stefan there.
I kind of did, I guess.
WolfCop has everything.
It's one of those movies that if you turn your brain off, it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. It's from the guy who did it, the writer-director, Lowell Dean. I guess he did a zombie movie a few years back called 13 Eerie. I haven't actually seen it, but from what I hear, it sounds like it's more of a Shocktober movie, because Wolf Cop does have some horror aspects to it, but for the most part, like I said, it's just really kind of a funny movie. It sounds like 13 Eerie is more actual full-blown horror movie, so I'll probably end up saving it for Shocktober, but I'm really excited to see it. And I guess they're gonna make a sequel to Wolf Cop, which I don't know if I'm necessarily excited about, because I don't know if you can kind of catch that lightning in a bottle twice, because it's kind of hard to do those movies that are fun, silly kind of type of movies. I mean, it's a thin line between being funny, stupid, and just being stupid. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if I'm necessarily excited for the sequel. I'll watch it, but I don't know if it'll be as good as the original.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. The idea of a sequel to a movie with that kind of tone usually doesn't work. Like, it's usually you catch lightning in a bottle once and you can't do it again.
Yeah, I remember seeing, I think it was on Vudu. This was when the movie first came out on video on demand. And I remember trying to convince my wife to watch it with me. And she's like, no, it looks really dumb. And I ended up watching it on Netflix just like the other day. Yeah. And I went to my wife afterwards. I was like, yeah, I'm glad you didn't watch it. You would have fucking hated it. But I mean, it's fantastic. If you like those types of movies, I would definitely recommend it.
I'm almost scared to watch it because I don't know how much I want to see a human dick turn into a wolf dick.
It is, pretty graphic.
See, that scares me a little. I don't know.
No, it's awesome. I liked it a lot.
Awesome, man.
All right. So our next segment, just kind of moving right along, is just plainly called comics. Tyler and I read a bunch of comics, and we just like to spotlight one each episode. So Tyler, what are you reading this week?
So I blazed through a graphic novel that was released in March the other day. I was at the doctor's office. I had to take my sister to the doctor. She fucked up her foot and, she couldn't drive. So I sat there. I needed something to read. So I grabbed this graphic novel that I had bought a couple weeks ago on a whim. Actually, it wasn't on a whim. I don't know why I said that. I had heard about it. It's called Sexcastle. It's written by.
Let me stop you right there. You brought a graphic novel called Sexcastle to a public doctor's office.
Yeah, and once I got it in the office, I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
I was kind of hiding the cover a little bit, and I kept it down.
It's a bold strategy.
It has nothing to do really with, well, there is a sex scene in it, but it has nothing to do with sex. This is the main character's last name. It's written by a guy named Kyle Starks, who actually lives where we live, the same city, in Evansville. And I had heard about this graphic novel through my cousin who's, was friends with him. And, my cousin doesn't live here anymore, but he was telling me that this guy from Evansville that he knew wrote this graphic novel and got picked up by Image. So this was put out by Image back in March, like I said, and I had really been meaning to read it. So I picked it up at our local comic book store the other day, or a couple weeks ago. And like I said, read it the other day, and it is awesome. It's kind of a throwback to 80s action movies.
Yeah.
It's about, the main character's name is Shane Sexcastle. It it starts with him getting out of prison, and he's welcomed by the former president, and the president asks him to come work with him, and he's like, and one of my favorite lines of the entire book is, "With all due respect, Mr. President, you can suck a dick." And just like cheesy, silly shit like that throughout the graphic novel. I was sitting in the doctor's office laughing out loud, and I don't know that a comic's ever made me laugh out loud like this one has. I hate to just say I love this part, but there's another scene where the two characters in a scene hear something, and the girl asks Shane Sexcastle, "What's that noise?" And he goes, "Dicks. Itty bitty dicks." And then this huge truck pulls up and these guys get out. So just a play on overcompensating with a big truck. But basically, like I said, it's about this main character, Shane Sexcastle. He's an assassin. He gets out of jail and he's wanting to put his past behind him. So he goes to a small town and starts working in a flower shop. And through various events, he gets on a bad side of a mob boss in the town, and the mob boss hires like the 9 top assassins in the world that Shane Sexcastle has a history with, and he basically has to dispose of all of them. And it's just hilarious, and it's really tongue-in-cheek, great dialogue. It's very over the top. I want to just keep going on about like this part and this part and this part that's hilarious, but I'll refrain and let everybody read it for themselves. But I can't recommend it enough. It was awesome.
That sounds awesome.
It really was. I loved it a lot. So I hope that Kyle Starks keeps writing comics, and I hope to one day see a sequel to Sexcastle because it was awesome. All
right. Awesome, man. I mean, I can't really chime in too much because I haven't read it. But it does sound really interesting, and I will definitely be picking it up.
And it's just another example too of Image just putting out
for sure. I love Image.
Cool original content.
Sure.
Like just awesome stuff. So, all right, man, what comic are you into this week?
Well, I keep talking about Secret Wars. It finally got released this past Wednesday. Unfortunately, I set it up as part of my pull list with Midtown, and I was really hoping we normally record these on Friday nights, and we're recording on Friday night. Tonight as well. And so I was really hoping that I would get it, and for some reason it would get here by Friday morning and I'd be able to read it and talk about it tonight. Unfortunately, with Midtown, usually when it gets released on Wednesday, I don't get it until the following Monday. So that didn't happen. That was kind of a pipe dream anyways. So instead, I will talk about the end of the Fantastic Four run and essentially the end of the Fantastic Four for the foreseeable future.
Until after the movie comes out.
Yeah. Until they get, stop getting shitty with Fox.
Yep.
I mean, it kind of puts me in a weird position too, because like we've talked about before, they don't want to have a comic supporting a movie from Fox. They're being kind of bitches about it.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to the movie, but at the same time, I really enjoyed this comic. So I'm kind of torn because I want the movie to do well, because I finally want a Fantastic Four movie to do well, but I also want the comic to come back. And I don't see a world where those two coexist. So it's like one of them has to either go away I'm very torn because I want the movie to do well, but I also want the comic to come back. But anyways, I'll actually get into the comic now that I've kind of went on that little tangent. The End is Forever is the most recent storyline of the Fantastic Four. They did this weird thing. It was kind of cute, I guess. When they first started this run of Fantastic Four, they went back to number 1. They just started out at number 1. But when they did this final little story arc, The End is Forever, they went back to the original number system. So I think it started at 642, I think. Cause then,
right.
cause it was 4 issues. So 642, 643. No, it's 643.
Okay.
643, 644. No, I was right the first time. God damn it. Anyways. And so it ended at 645. And, this particular storyline felt like they were building them back up because this entire run that's been going on for over a year now has really just been breaking down the Fantastic Four, like just beating them to a pulp. You start off the run, the original run in, I think it was February of last year, where they're going to trial. They open up this new dimension and, in order to close it and, to kill all these monsters that are coming through the dimension, Johnny Storm loses his power, so he doesn't have his powers. Then they lose the Baxter building. They lose all these children that they, I guess, had pseudo-adopted. And Ben Grimm goes to prison he was framed for murder. So this whole story arc, this whole run of Fantastic Four has really been about just kind of beating them down. And then this most recent storyline, this most recent, arc, The End is Forever is kind of their redemption story. So it felt a lot like a series finale of a TV show. They ended on such a great note. Like you see them together and they have their old blue suits back on because they had been wearing red suits, and it just felt like a series finale, which is, I'm glad that we got to talk about it on this episode because obviously we're going to talk about Justified. So it kind of fits with our episode, but I mean, I just really enjoyed it. And like I said, I'm torn between whether or not I want the movie to do well, so the comic will probably not come back until the movies are done, or the movie suffer and then the comic comes back. So like I said, I don't think those two things can coexist, which is kind of a bummer.
I almost want the movies to fail just so the rights revert back to Marvel.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
That's a different topic for a different day. I actually gave up on the Fantastic Four run that you're talking about back right around Original Sin. I got really far behind on it because it wasn't fun to read at the time, and I stopped buying issues just because I was trying to find places to cut in my comic book budget.
Sure.
And that one seemed like an easy one to go. So I'm a bit bummed I didn't stick with it, especially whenever they reverted back to the original numbering. I thought that was really cool as well, but it's just something I never jumped back into.
Yeah, I really liked it. And I don't blame you for kind of giving up on it because it is hard to read at some parts. They go a long period where not a whole lot happens, which is not bad. I mean, one of the things I like about the Fantastic Four is the family dynamic. And so they're not always fighting somebody. A lot of times they're fighting each other, which it can be interesting, but I could see why it would be kind of hard to read at certain points. Plus, this whole other dimension thing was kind of weird, and I wasn't, and it was part of their child's imagination, and it was kind of weird. So I get that, but I'm really glad that I stuck with it.
Yeah, that's awesome that you did.
All right, cool. Unless you have anything else, I think we'll just go ahead and move on to nerd news.
No, I wish one of us would have talked about Secret Wars.
I'm definitely going to be talking about it next week, for sure.
Yeah, I bought it. I actually had it on Midtown, and I went out of my way to the comic book store to get it, and I never got around to reading it, but I'm really pumped to read it, and I hope that it hits me more than Convergence did, because like we've mentioned, I gave up on that pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm bummed that I didn't get to talk about this episode, but it also kind of gives me a little bit more time to get caught up on Marvel. I have a few more issues of Punisher, which I don't think is going to be affecting Secret Wars that much. So, I mean, he's in LA now, so I don't think he's going to be involved in that whole thing much, so I wasn't necessarily that concerned with it. But if I have a couple extra days, I'm going to go ahead and get all my Marvel knocked out, so I'm completely caught up on it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, man, you ready for our next segment?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so next up, we're going to do Nerd News. It's our segment where we basically discuss what the title says, the basic news that we're interested in from a nerddom standpoint that occurred over the last week. So jumping right in, Pat, I posted this on our Facebook page, but I wanted to get your thoughts if you had any, because I know you're kind of indifferent to DC stuff.
Sure.
But they did release the first look at the group shot of the Suicide Squad, and I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of indifferent to it. There's not a whole lot there. I do think that Will Smith kind of jumps out. He's kind of a weird cast. I'm not sure.
It's like all these B-list people.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that Margot Robbie's has a blossoming career, but basically it's all these people nobody really knows or cares about too much, and then Will Smith.
Yeah, and I'm not crazy. I had forgotten that Jay Courtney was in this movie, and I was like, oh, shit.
He's got some weird facial hair going on, too.
Yeah, for sure.
But I like Captain Boomerang. He's a funny Flash villain.
Yeah.
So if I wouldn't be opposed to him being like just really big and outlandish in the way he portrays him. Like,
sure.
So hopefully that's something that happened. Hopefully it's not like Live Free or Die Hard. Or what was the Die Hard movie he was in?
Yeah, Live Free or Die Hard. What was it?
No, that was the fourth one.
A Good Day to Die Hard.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Where Bruce Willis was on vacation.
Yep.
Yep.
He said it a few times.
Yeah, like 100.
No, I put on our Facebook page "not bad" as my caption for it, and I don't think it's bad. I don't really like the look of Killer Croc too much. Everybody else is pretty. There's nothing crazy going on. I actually like Harley Quinn quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think that they did her really well. I noticed that she does have some tattoos,
yeah,
which kind of, I guess, goes along with what we saw with the Joker. But I have some pretty high hopes for this movie. I think it's I've always thought the Suicide Squad was a cool concept, and I like David Ayer a lot, so I have faith that he has the talent to do it right.
It screams like Mad Max kind of character.
Yeah.
Like that's how the dress of them, and just, they're really dark and gritty kind of. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good comparison, but that just kind of the impression that I got when I first looked at it.
If you look at the lineup, it's like all dark and gritty, and then there's that one Ray that's not dark and gritty, and it's Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure she's going to probably be, one of the standouts in the movie, because she's one of the more recognizable faces and a fan favorite.
Yep.
All right, moving right along. So this isn't too crazy. It's kind of been speculated, but Empire, I think, was the magazine that did a piece on Star Wars this week. We celebrated Star Wars Day last Monday, May the 4th, and they kind of announced that Adam Driver was playing Kylo Ren, who is the masked figure we saw in the most recent trailer.
Yep.
Which is awesome casting, because see, I loved Adam Driver.
I'm not a huge fan.
There's a few things that he's been in that I kind of roll my eyes at. It's like Girls comes to mind, because I just really don't like that show. But if he's going to be in a Star Wars movie, him playing a Sith Lord, makes sense to me. I think he
has got a face for it.
Yeah, well, that's why they put a mask.
Because he's an ugly man.
That's why they put a mask on him. I guess that was the joke you were making, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he, like I said, he just has like a dark persona around him, so I think that he'll play a Sith Lord pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I've made my thoughts known on Adam Driver.
Yeah, just now. I didn't know you didn't like him so much.
I thought we've talked about it quite a few times.
Maybe we did, and I just kind of put it out of my mind. I don't know.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that you listen when I talk.
Just staying on the Star Wars tip of things, they announced.
I thought we decided that you weren't going to stop saying that.
Just staying on the Star Wars side of things. The next anthology movie after Rogue One, so to be Episode 7, Rogue One, Episode 8, the movie after Episode 8. Will be about Boba Fett and kind of his, not necessarily origin, but kind of what's going on with him after we see him in Episode 2, I guess.
Yep. Fantastic news. Yeah. I mean, I know that when they first started to announce these anthology movies, I mean, a lot of Star Wars fans kind of screamed for this movie, and I'm glad that they listened. I don't know if it was always in the plan to do this movie, or if it was just the fan outcry or the desire for this movie. I would like to think that they were listening to the fans, because I think this is an awesome idea. He's a badass, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, for sure. He's definitely a fan favorite. It's funny that you say that. It's like as soon as they announced they were doing these spin-off movies, the first thing you saw everywhere was Boba Fett. Boba Fett. I mean, it's crazy too when you go back and watch those movies how little screen time Boba Fett has.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The popularity that character gained is just crazy to me.
It's kind of a complete tangent, but I follow Star Wars on Facebook, whatever. And they always post those like Trivia Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a while back. They posted what's the name of Boba Fett's ship? And everybody was pissed because they were like, well, the book that you tell us this information apparently is no longer canon anymore. So apparently his ship doesn't have a name.
Yeah, because they never say it in the movies, do they?
Yeah, it's in a book.
Wow. I never put that together. Yep. I mean, but they put out toys and stuff that calls it the Slave One. So, I mean, it's kind of canon, maybe. I don't know.
Sort of.
But, I mean, it's very well known that there was a book that came out after Return of the Jedi where he's in it. He shoots his way or kills the Sarlacc one way or another and escapes. So that's not technically canon anymore. Nope. But if Lucasfilm and Disney are smart, they'll do something similar so that they can use the character eventually again. Just
for sure.
Moneymaker.
Yep.
All right, man. Moving right along. This one's for you. This week, John Wick 2 was announced with Keanu Reeves set to return.
I'm so excited for this movie. Oh man, I love that movie so much, and it holds up too because I've watched it a couple of times since the first time I watched it. It's really great. I love it so much.
I thought it looked
so
really
much
dumb.
Fun.
I thought it looked really dumb, and then I watched it, and it's
great, right?
It's all right, yeah.
No, it's great. It's awesome.
I like that the whole concept is he's basically doing all this shit because his dog got killed.
Yeah.
Like I like that a lot for some reason. It's just like that little thing set him off, and these people paid.
Yeah. If I did have one nitpick about it, it's the fact that when he's tied up, he's not a bad, like you see him do all that, and he has this really like, oh, I think I'm back. Well, I mean, dude, you're tied to a chair, and if Willem Dafoe wasn't there, you'd be dead. Yeah. I mean, I guess you can say that he knew he was there, so that's why he was talking so tough. But, I don't know. And that whole speech bothered me because it was just like, he was flat out telling you why he got so pissed.
Yeah.
And it was just like, well, why didn't you just trust as a filmmaker that you conveyed that?
Yeah.
With Keanu's performance or the previous, I mean, it just kind of bothered me that they just had to come out and say it. But I'm really psyched for this movie. That, nightclub scene is, oh man, I still love it. It's fantastic. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I am a little bit nervous. We did talk about, this sort of thing, and I think it relates to John Wick 2 with WolfCop is you kind of caught lightning in a bottle with John Wick, and I don't know if they can kind of sustain that, but I'd be interested if he spends a lot of time in the hotel. Because I thought that was really cool. I thought it was a really easy way to kind of build mythology around this place and around this character. So I'd be really interested if he spends a lot of time in that hotel again. I'm
really disappointed in myself. There was a dick joke somewhere in there.
Sure.
Like a wolf dick joke and Keanu Reeves dick. I'm really bummed I couldn't connect the dots fast enough.
Yeah.
All right. Ready to move on?
Sure.
All right. So I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or not, but it had been kind of rumored that Hugh Jackman's last performance as Wolverine was going to be in the third standalone Wolverine movie.
Yep.
And he basically came out and said it on TV in Australia recently. So that's pretty much confirmed that will be the last of it.
Yep.
Which I'm okay with. I think Hugh Jackman's done a great job as Wolverine, but it's probably time to kind of retire the character. Last week we talked about maybe the Bryan Singer universe of X-Men movies coming to an end is a rumor. So if that's true, they probably need to put an end to Wolverine as well and eventually recast it or do whatever they're going to do. Hopefully let it revert back to Marvel, which we know won't happen, but
yeah, I think he's a fantastic Wolverine. I've gotten to the point where, I mean, I can't think of the character without thinking of him. Like, he's one of those guys that, like, when they first announced it, I was like, that's awesome casting. Like, nobody else, I can't think of anybody else being that character now. I'm kind of bummed for him that he didn't necessarily get the best material to work with.
Yeah.
And he's getting kind of old. So, I mean, it makes sense. You can only play that character for so long because the character, one of the things he's famous for is the fact that he never gets older. But Hugh Jackman is a regular human being, so he gets older. So, I mean, you can only play that character for so long.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Moving right along. Last story I have, I just saw today, and I'm kind of psyched about. I'm curious what y'all think. But ABC announced that they have greenlit a new Muppet show.
I couldn't care less.
Really? I thought you liked the movies.
I like the movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the first movie. The second movie, not so much.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know.
It's kind of, I'm going to tell you how it's going to be filmed, and you're going to probably roll your eyes pretty hard. So,
okay.
Instead of it being a variety show like the old shows were,
sure,
it's going to be a documentary-style show that, for the first time ever, will explore the Muppets' personal lives and relationships and
brah.
make jokes about
brah.
Don't fucking say that. God damn it. What was that?
Brah.
I don't even want to comment on it anymore. You're just ruining my mojo.
That's the episode title right there. Brah.
Oh, God.
I like doing it now. Brah. Well, I guess that's the last story.
I'm like turning red for you.
Brah.
Cool, man. You have a catchphrase now. You're basically a Muppet.
All right. I don't know how I feel about that.
All right, man. I'm done. Nerd news is done.
Cool.
This is not the first time that we've ended a nerd news on this note either. With me just defeated and just done.
Every episode. All right. So our next segment is kind of just what we dubbed our main topic. It changes every episode. Tyler and I are big fans of the show Justified, and it just ended, I guess it's been about a month now. And so we thought it would be time to do a recap, similar to what we did with Parks and Rec and with the first season of Daredevil. We're going to
break down every episode of all 6 seasons.
No, not quite that hardcore. We're going to kind of do, season by season breakdown of Justified. Tyler and I had a bit of a miscommunication. I will be doing a season by season breakdown, and Tyler will be chiming in when he feels like, I don't know. Justified, just a few, little information, I guess, details about it. It's a crime drama developed by Graham Yost, who wrote I think he just wrote, Speed and Broken Arrow, among other movies. It's based on Fire in the Hole by Elmore Leonard, which I've never read any of his stuff, but after watching Justified, I'm definitely interested. It ran from March 16th, 2010, through April 14th, 2015, 6 seasons, and stars Timothy Olyphant as U.S. Marshal Raylan Givens.
That's right.
Do you just want me to start with season 1?
Just one more rare fact about this show is it has the worst opening theme music of any show I've ever watched. Oh yeah,
for sure. I hate it.
Oh,
I hate it so much. Well, I guess before we get started with season 1, before I get started with season 1, how'd you get into Justified?
I really liked Timothy Olyphant from the things I had seen him in previously, and I was kind of going through a phase in college where I had discovered a few shows that I really liked and had binged with my roommates, and we were just looking for new things to watch. Sure. And it was just a show that season 1 came out on DVD, really liked Timothy Olyphant. It seemed like a no-brainer to give it a shot, and yeah, we just binged it, and I've been watching ever since.
All right, cool.
What about you?
Well, similar. It came out right after The Crazies, which is a movie that I love. I watch it pretty much every Shocktober. It's a remake of one of my favorite George Romero movies.
When did The Crazies come out?
Well, this show came out in 2010. I want to say that it was either 2009 or 2010.
Okay.
Is when it came out. It seemed like it was like right after The Crazies came out. And unfortunately, I was in college and I was working part-time, so I didn't have a DVR at the time, so it was really hard for me to keep up with TV. And so I was really interested in the show, but I just couldn't keep up with it. So Tyler actually kind of got me into this show because I really wanted to watch it, but like I said, I just didn't have the time. my schedule was always changing. And I remember I was looking for something to watch on my portable DVD player flying. We were going to Hawaii for my honeymoon. And that flight is ridiculous. We were in an airport all day. So I was looking for something to binge watch on my portable DVD player. And Tyler let me borrow the first 2 seasons. And then I ended up borrowing the third one after we got back. I really enjoyed it. It's fantastic. And then, after that, I think I just kept up with it. I may or may not have mentioned this on a past episode that I watched a couple of seasons on Amazon Instant Video. And then just recently, the last couple of weeks, I binge watched the final season on FX Now, which is kind of a piece of shit app. I wouldn't suggest using it. It crashes a lot, but I mean, it got me through the last season. So that's all I care about.
All right, man. Cool. Really quick before we get started.
Sure.
What is the status on spoilers?
I think we do, well, since I'm doing the season by season, I figured we would just keep it season by season. So if you only watched the first season, listen to us talk about the first season. And then after that, come back for Nerd Favorite. Timestamps will be in the show notes.
Works for me.
All right. So first season, March 2010 through June 2010. I'll give it just a brief synopsis. It's kind of hard to do. Synopsis is that how you?
Synopses.
No, sure, whatever.
I have no idea.
4 seasons of TV because there's so many different side characters and such. But I'll just kind of give a brief intro to just really the main story arc of each season. Season 1 really concentrates on the Crowder family after Ava shoots her husband, Bowman Crowder. So that kind of jumps off the series. I mean, there obviously with Raylan being in Miami and then getting transferred to Harlan County is obviously a big deal, the start of the season, but that kind of is a jumping off point of the whole Raylan and Boyd, feud, which plays a huge part in the rest of the 6 seasons. So that's kind of why I chose that as the intro for season 1. Tyler, what do you think of Justified season 1?
I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of it. It got me started on the show and kept me interested enough to follow it into season 2. I really appreciated the pilot. The pilot was really good. I loved the opening scene with Timothy Olyphant's character, Raylan, in Miami, and it's pretty tense. And then what happens there, just having him get sent back to Harlan and, you know, kind of discovering Harlan through his eyes as somebody going back to his hometown. The one thing that season 1 did that the rest of the show kind of got away from is they almost did a Monster of the Week type thing at the beginning, where the first few episodes focused on a singular story that began and ended in that episode.
Sure.
Whereas following seasons were kind of more arcs that went through the whole season. So I really liked those first few episodes quite a bit, and I almost wish that they would have done that every so often throughout the rest of the show. But that's not to say I didn't enjoy the main stories for each season. It was just a nice little break from it. So I was a big fan of season 1.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the pilot episode, like you mentioned. I really loved the scene in Miami. I think it's a great way of establishing the character. Raylan Givens is a guy that doesn't necessarily play by the rules, which is obviously something that it is cliche to say, but yeah. I mean, it runs true throughout the whole series. And it also kind of establishes that he is a man of his word. He told the guy if he didn't leave that he was going to shoot him, and the guy didn't leave and he shot him. And I think it's really important to note that because Boyd, kind of his arch enemy throughout this series, will say anything to get whatever he wants. So he is definitely not a man of his word. And I think it works that there are 2 ends of that spectrum. So I like that. And I like the point that you made about him coming back to Harlan County, because it's not somebody that's coming home that's excited to come home. It's like he's seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
And so it definitely, with Timothy Olyphant's, portrayal, you feel that in the first season. So I definitely, appreciated that.
I mean, it sets a precedent for the rest of the show too. Like, you open it up with your main character killing a guy. It makes you kind of question what he's going to do in each scene going forward.
For sure.
I mean, sometimes he kills him, sometimes he doesn't. He's kind of a loose cannon.
And I loved, especially with the first season, the action was great, but they kept it really grounded.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily an action show, even though there are a lot of the season finales that I'll talk about here in a little bit are really action packed, but it's more of a character driven show. It's much more of kind of like a hillbilly mob type of show, like a hillbilly gangster kind of show. And I really liked that about it. It doesn't necessarily just show you a bunch of people shooting each other. There's a lot of great character work.
So I dated a girl in college that had family that lived in Eastern Kentucky.
Oh, yeah?
Or kin, as you may say. And there was a few days one summer where we went to visit her family that lived there. And it was like going through a portal to a different dimension.
Yeah.
It was insane. And this show captures a lot of that because there is a lot of inbred craziness in that part of the state of Kentucky. And there were multiple times watching this show where I just laughed to myself because somebody on the show reminded me of somebody I met in real life in Eastern Kentucky. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, they do a great job with that, even though it's hard for me to believe that there are people out there that are like that, but there are.
It's, oh my God, dude, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like I have nightmares about it still.
I don't blame you. That girl was a bitch.
That's putting it nicely.
Anyways, so the way I did this recap is obviously I'm going to go season by season and talk about what I liked and didn't like each season, but I also picked out my favorite episodes. So I don't know if you did that as well, Tyler.
I have my favorite episode for season 1.
Okay, cool. Well, what is your favorite episode then?
The pilot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just sets the whole series up perfectly and really gives a great introduction to Raylan, as we talked about. So that's definitely my favorite episode of season 1.
Okay. Well, my favorite episode is the season finale, which is going to be kind of a trend.
Same with me.
Yeah, they do a lot of great season finales, and I talked about it being character driven, and I like all that, and that is true. I really do enjoy the dialogue and the characters in the show, but this episode is just action packed. I loved it. I actually prepping for this episode, I forgot that Boyd's dad's even in the show because it had been so long since I've watched this season. But he does fantastic work in this episode, especially, but in this season. I think he's only in like 5 or 6 episodes, something like that. But I mean, there's just so much going on, and I really enjoyed it. And like I said, it's going to be a trend. A lot of my favorite episodes of these seasons are the season finales because they really do a great job, especially later in the seasons where they have the kind of that big bad guy of each season. Yeah. And so him and Raylan always square off. Usually, it's either the episode before the season finale or the season finale. So, they do a really great job of that.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yep. All right. So season 2. February 2011 to May 2011. It concentrates on the Bennett family trying to expand their pot business following the death of Bo, which of course is Boyd's dad that we referred to earlier. This season,
I thought it was his brother. Or
no, Bo is
his dad.
Bowman is his brother.
Bowman's his brother that gets shot by Ava.
There's too many B's.
This family with their fucking dumbass names.
It's Bowman, who is Ava's husband, who she shoots.
Yeah.
Boyd is Walter Goggins.
Yeah.
And then Bo is his dad.
God
and
damn
then
it.
Johnny is his cousin.
I wonder if Johnny's mom and dad were like, man, my fucking brother is naming his kid all sorts of weird, dumb shit. We're just going to name our kid Johnny.
I think Bowman got the worst. I mean, other than the fact that he got shot with a shotgun, but with the naming department too. Like, Bowman.
Yeah, I don't think that's a real name either. I think that's made up.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, really second season, I really enjoyed the first season, but second season was when I was like, okay, I'm hooked on this show. It's really, has a lot to do with, Margot Martindale's and, Jeremy Davies' character. Margot Martindale, she plays, is it Mags?
Yeah, Mag.
Bennett.
Mags.
And then, Jeremy Davies plays, Dickie Bennett. and the big pot dealers, and they're trying to, Bo Crowder, who dies in, season finale of the first season, he runs a lot of the pot in Harlan County, and they're trying to take over, that. So it's definitely, an interesting dynamic. And then, I've mentioned it really kind of hits its stride as far as the hillbilly gangster aspect of the show. The show does a really good job of, it has its overarching stories in each season. It kind of gets away from the bad guy of the week, sort of thing. And it really just has its overarching storyline, but it also, like many great shows do, it has a lot of side stories. And I really like the Evidence where, what's her name? I can't think of his ex-wife, Raylan's ex-wife.
Winona?
Yes. Where she steals the money from the evidence locker. I like that aspect of this season. And it just kind of proves that, sure, Raylan doesn't play by the rules, but he does the right thing in this particular, aspect of it. So he's definitely an anti-hero, but he does the right thing, as far as this particular instance is concerned. So I like that. What'd you think of season 2?
Season 2 is actually my favorite season of Justified.
Really?
I really like the stuff with the Bennetts.
Oh, yeah.
And I like how the season progresses quite a bit. And what's the actress's name that plays Mags again?
Margot Martindale.
I feel bad that I forgot her name because she's such.
I only know it because I wrote it down. I'm terrible with names.
She's so well known. She's been great in a lot of things, and she's always great. And she's my favorite. I guess my second favorite villain of the show. Boyd being the favorite, obviously.
Yeah.
But she was just very charismatic and a very different take on the show compared to what the first season was about. And just the Bennetts, how crazy and dumb and wild they were, like the boys. I can't remember, what was it? Dickie, Coover, and Doyle, I think, were the three
I just remember Dickie.
And then, you have Loretta McCready in it as well, who goes on to pop up throughout the rest of the show.
She plays a big part in the last season.
Yeah. Raylan cares for her quite a bit. And,
sure.
And just the way that those relationships progress throughout the season really, really got me.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. So,
do you have a favorite episode?
Yeah, I hate to follow suit from you, but it's got to be the season finale.
Yeah, that's mine as well.
So, like we said, spoiler alerts for season 2 will follow. I love this episode because Mags just kind of kills herself.
Yeah.
Like 2 of her sons are dead. Dickie's headed to jail, and she kills herself by drinking the apple liquor that she had killed people throughout the season. Up to that point. So it was a really nice cap to this story that I care a lot about.
I really liked this episode because it shows that Raylan's a human being. Like, he gets hung up by a tree and almost gets beaten to death. Like, that was the idea. They were going to kill him. And obviously he gets out of it, spoiler alert, but it just kind of shows that he is vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so I really like that aspect because I think a lot of shows don't do that enough. And maybe this show, towards the later seasons, they kind of get away from it, but definitely in this episode, I really appreciated that.
Yep, for sure.
All right, moving right along, we are going to go on to season 3, which aired January 2012 to April 2012. It introduces one of my favorite villains, Robert Quarles, of the Detroit mob, who gets exiled to Kentucky. And what I really liked about this particular character and why he's one of my favorite bad guys is he's just one of those characters that always seems to be one step ahead of everybody else. He always seems to be so cool under pressure, and he has that Wild Wild West type of gun thing that he has going on. I thought that was pretty cool. And I really appreciated towards the end of this season, he kind of loses his shit and he falls really, really hard. So I appreciated that. And really, for me, season 3, not necessarily my favorite, but I feel like the show itself found its groove. Like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't fall on the action. It always is character driven first, action second. So I really like that. The dialogue is fantastic. Jeremy Davies is great in this season as well as in the second season. Yeah. And I really liked the Arlo, the Winehouse stuff.
Yeah.
I really liked how it built mythology, to this story. So I liked that a lot.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I enjoyed season 3. I enjoyed Bubba from Forrest Gump as Limehouse.
Yep.
And, like you said, the Arlo.
Kind of playing Bubba.
yeah. Like you said, the Arlo stuff's great. And I really like Neil McDonough. Is it McDonough? I don't know how you pronounce it. McDonough?
Sure.
But anyways, the guy who plays, Robert Quarles. He's a great actor. So it was cool seeing him pop up in this show. But I'll be honest, there's a lot of gaps in my memory about season 3. And I don't know if that necessarily speaks to its quality or just the fact that I haven't seen it in a few years and my mind's going. I don't know. But there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of gaps to season 3 that I can't really fill in the blanks for.
Sure. Well, that being said, do you have a favorite episode?
I do.
Okay, cool.
So my favorite episode of season 3, well, shit.
I don't think that's an episode title.
I thought it was season 3. Oh, see, okay. I'm sorry. I just had my number wrong. It's episode 5. It's Thick as Mud.
Okay.
And there's one I like that. I remember this scene very vividly because it's so funny. And it has to do with, Dewey Crow,
oh my God, I can't stand him.
You know the actor that plays him is Australian?
No, I had no idea.
Isn't that crazy? He plays white trash really well. But basically Dewey Crow's in the hospital and this nurse tells him that she's taken his kidneys and he has to bring her $20,000 to have her put the kidneys back in. I completely
forgot about that.
He's such a dumbass that he believes this and he's running all over the place trying to get the $20,000 and his kidneys were never taken and I forget how it comes about, but at a certain point in the episode, he's told that he still has his 2 kidneys and he's confused and he says, so wait, I had 4 kidneys? And like that character is just so funny and so white trash and so crazy. And that was one of my favorite moments with him. So that
episode is good. I like that one too.
That's why I think it's my favorite.
I think it's funny because he's such a dipshit. But in that episode, he just seems to be like one step ahead of everybody, which is just because he's going on a crazy rampage. Like there's no like rhyme or reason why he's robbing the certain places that he's robbing. So they can't really catch him. And I think it's pretty hilarious. I don't like that particular character that much. I think he's kind of annoying.
He's definitely better in small doses.
Yeah, like for sure.
We'll get into season 4 here in a second, or I'm sorry, season 5 where he takes a bigger role.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but he's definitely good in small doses and it's just his relationship with Raylan and the way Raylan kind of owns him all the time. Yeah. And Raylan's the one in this episode to tell him that his kidneys are still there. It's just a really funny episode.
Yeah, that's a good one. My favorite episode of this season is actually episode 12, not the season finale. I like the season finale.
Yeah.
But what happens in this particular episode, kind of towards the end, is Tom, the state trooper, that kind of has a bit of a bromance with Raylan. And I really liked the episodes where he would pop up every once in a while. I enjoyed his character. He gets shot and killed in this episode. And the season finale had a weird feel to it because of that. Like they were just hunting down who shot Tom. And it just kind of felt like, I don't know. It just had a weird feel to it. So I liked the 12th episode more than I liked the season finale and this particular season.
Yep.
All right. So season 4 ran from January 2013 to April 2013. It focuses on the cold case of Waldo Truth, unsolved for 30 years. This is actually my favorite season.
This was close for season, between season 2 and this. Like, this is a really good season as well.
I loved the mystery of it. I loved who is Drew Thompson.
It's a nice break from the normal.
That was literally what I was about to say. Not that it was boring. I'm not saying that at all, but it started to kind of find its formula.
Yeah.
And it was nice to have a season that really broke from that.
Yep.
And he's investigating this cold case kind of brought on by the mystery surrounding his father, why his father had this I guess it was like parachute bag or something like that in his wall. So that's kind of how Raylan gets roped into this. And I just really liked that it kind of broke away from, this safe formula that they had kind of come up with and did something different, because I don't think a lot of shows would have done that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. So favorite episode?
My favorite episode is the finale.
Yep. Going back to the trend.
And it's funny. I love the mystery around Drew Thompson and that kind of side story. Or well, it's not really, it's more the main story of the season. But what I love about the season finale actually doesn't really have anything to do with that. It has to do with the way that things end for, what's that character's name?
Augustine.
Yeah, Nikki Augustine.
Yep, who is played by, what's his name from Yes Dear?
Yeah. Oh, shit.
The guy that always wears a baseball cap no matter where he is.
Yeah, and he's awesome, too. I wish he did more. Mike O'Malley.
Did you just say he was awesome?
Yeah, I like it. I like Mike
Have you
O'Malley.
ever seen Yes Dear?
Yeah, man, I used to watch Yes Dear all the time.
I used to watch it all the time.
My parents love sitcoms, so I watch a lot of sitcoms.
You said it with pride, though. You said it with a hint of pride.
He's been in other stuff, though. He was like the best part of Yes Dear. He's good. And he was good and Justified.
That's not saying much. You were the best part. You were the shiniest part of a turd. Anyways.
I didn't know I was going to... I did not see Yes Dear coming up in this episode. That's funny. But no, basically, there's a confrontation between Raylan and Nikki Augustine in a limo, where Nikki Augustine is kind of being forced to run from Harlan, and Raylan tells him to promise that he's not going to hurt his family, and Nikki Augustine says the opposite. He says, as soon as I can, I'm coming back and I'm killing your family. And so Raylan kind of turns a blind eye to, and he doesn't order a hit, but in a roundabout way, he almost kind of orders a hit on Nikki.
He doesn't actually shoot him himself, but he plays a huge part in him.
He walks away and turns a blind eye to Nikki Augustine being assassinated pretty much in his limo.
Yep.
As he leaves. So.
And that kind of solidifies him as the anti-hero.
Oh yeah.
I mean, up until this point, you definitely had that impression of him, but once you see this episode, it's solidified that he is the anti-hero.
Yep.
And you kind of stole all my thunder for that favorite episode. I liked how this plays. It doesn't play a major role in season 6, but it definitely creates tension between Art, Raylan's boss, and Raylan in season 6. So I like how things matter. We talked a lot about that with the first season of Daredevil. I really appreciated that in that particular show, and I liked it in Justified as well, that things matter in this show.
Yeah.
All right. So unless you had anything else, I'm going to move on to season 5.
Yep.
So yes, you have more? Or
no.
No, I'm just fucking with you.
Season 5 over with.
Okay. Spoiler alert. Season 5 ran from January 2014 to April 2014, and it focuses on the Florida Crows, moving to Kentucky. This is my least favorite season.
Me as well. It's funny, if you go through Justified, like I was going through the Wikipedia pages for Justified just to refresh my memory on some of the seasons and episodes, and each season and each episode has these paragraphs like detailing what happens. Sure. And then when you get to season 5, it's like each plot point is like a sentence. Yeah. It's bare bones. Nobody cares enough to type anything about it.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not a fan of Dewey Crow. And I am also not a fan of his family either. I think we're
talking
annoying. About
Justified. You gotta say kin. You're not a fan of his kin.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his kin. But
sorry,
I mean, Michael Rappaport does a great job.
Yep.
But I just don't like the character. I just don't like the whole family.
Yeah, I liked Michael Rappaport in this season at first. And then it turned into like an entire season affair. Like if it would have just been a couple episodes where Dewey Crow's family from Florida comes up.
I mean, as soon as I saw him, I knew, oh God, this is going to be because you don't get an actor like that. I mean, he's not super well known, but he's fairly famous.
I guess you've seen the new episode of Louie with him.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Well, it's not the newest episode.
Is it not?
No. It was a couple episodes ago.
Okay. All right.
I liked it a lot. But anyways, I think he does a good job. Like I said, this is my least favorite season because they're in it.
It's not only that, too. It's like Ava's in jail, and I hated that whole subplot of her and the gangs in prison. Like, that turned me off big time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And just all of this mixed together to make a turd of a season.
Yeah, it really is not a good season.
That being said.
Yeah, favorite episodes, I guess.
I would say the pilot. Or, not the pilot, the first episode of the season, just because I didn't know how tedious it was going to be at that point. And, you know, I did enjoy Raylan going down to Florida and meeting this family.
See, I never liked those episodes.
Really? I
like him in Kentucky. Like that, I feel like that's where he belongs. I don't like anybody
in Kentucky. I fucking hate Kentucky, and I'm sorry, Kentucky listeners. But no, I enjoyed the way this season started. It just kind of went downhill from there for me.
Sure. My favorite episode of the season was episode 11, where Art gets shot. Cause obviously it's a big moment for Raylan because he feels responsible because he was protecting, Raylan's ex-girlfriend at the time. So, which is only involved. Well, I mean, she's involved because she's a social worker, but also she was really involved because she was Raylan's girlfriend. So I definitely think.
Played by Amy Smart.
Yeah. Who was just smoking hot.
Yes, sir.
And so, I mean, I think it's a big moment for, Raylan because he definitely feels responsible for, Art being shot because I think he feels like he should have been there.
Yep.
All right. And I think that's just as much as season 5 deserves. So we'll move right along to, the last season, season 6. And really, I mean, it's just the culmination of the Raylan and Boyd rivalry. I love the, Ava and Boyd stuff. I think it's definitely a new dynamic to the character. Ava that's how she gets out of prison. She becomes an informant for Raylan to get Boyd. And that's the only reason that Raylan stays in Kentucky. Cause I guess Art has offered to transfer him to Miami, but he wants to kind of stay and finish the job.
Yeah.
And then I really liked, Sam Elliott's character for the most part. I think he's a great actor. It is very distracting, him without his mustache, because he looks like a bird. It is very distracting. Watch this season again and tell me now that I've said that, he doesn't look exactly like a bird. He's got a little beak thing going on without the mustache. It's very distracting. I didn't like how, like earlier in the season, he just seems really menacing. But then once you find out his plan, it's like the most simple, like, easy, like, I mean, there's no twist to it at all. He's buying up all his land because he wants to start selling pot. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, they're going to make pot legal, and he's just going to make a ton of money because he has all this great land in Kentucky. And it just is like the easiest story you could do with that. Him buying up all this land, because the mystery of it, the first few seasons, is why anyone would do this.
Yeah.
It just kind of seems like a really easy way out, kind of no twists whatsoever. So I do like his character. I just I didn't enjoy, where they took that particular storyline.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see why they did it. Things towards the end were kind of straightforward. Like Boyd was trying to steal this money, and, you know, Sam Elliott at Markham's plan was pretty straightforward. That's because there were so many things intertwining, and they're trying to wrap the season up and kind of put a bow on it. So I can kind of see why they maybe didn't want things to get too muddled.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a problem with it.
I really enjoyed the season. I thought it was a great last season. I liked how they ended on a high note. Even though I wasn't a fan of Markham's storyline, I still enjoyed the kind of the wrap up between Boyd and Raylan. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was a good, series, last season of a great series. I liked that it kind of ended on a high note.
Yeah, this show definitely went out really well. And, you know, they had tons of guest stars throughout the last season. All your favorite characters from the past seasons that were still alive showed up, even a couple dead ones, in hallucinations or whatever. And I don't know. It was a really well crafted final season.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't do a favorite episode for this season. I figured we could just go ahead and kind of talk about the season finale.
Yeah, I would say
the series finale.
I would say the series finale is my favorite episode of the season anyways, so that's a good idea.
Yeah, so I figure we just kind of discuss how we felt about the show ending and how they ended it with the series finale. I don't know. It was tough. I think it's always a really tough task to end a show well. I wasn't crazy about the Ava stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily enjoyed seeing her. Like, I mean, I think I would have been okay if she just drove off and we never saw her again.
Yeah.
And you just see Raylan hanging out with his daughter. I would have been okay with that.
So my disappointment from it comes that none of them died.
Yeah.
I think you gotta kill somebody. Like, that's what you're leading up to. And like, even the synopsis for the show, the episode on iTunes was like, Ava, Boyd, and Raylan face off for one last time to see who will get out of Harlan alive, if anyone. It's like, oh, actually, they all three live and we're fine. So I think you gotta kill somebody. Obviously I didn't want Raylan to die, but I would have been happy if that makes me sound really morbid. Like, I would have been happy if these things died. But, I think killing off Ava would have been good because Raylan.
But she was pregnant.
But you could have just avoided that storyline at all. Anyways,
New episode title.
Boyd and Raylan both had an emotional connection to Ava, so to kill her off would have maybe been a good idea and leave, Batman and the Joker alive.
Yeah, but that's not ending it. You're not ending the rivalry. The rivalry's still gonna be there.
Yeah. I mean, was the rivalry ended if...
I feel like they're little...
Because he goes and he lies to Boyd and tells him she's dead?
Well, that was to protect her.
Yeah.
I think they had kind of...
I think that you could have ended it the same exact way with Boyd going to jail and Raylan, living his life in Miami with Ava dead. And that'd been okay.
I think that if Ava died and Raylan had a hand in her dying, Boyd would have never forgiven him.
It wouldn't have
would have just been, Boyd even says it. He's like, I'm eventually going to get out of here. And if Raylan had played a hand in her dying, even if he didn't have play a hand, Boyd probably would have blamed him anyways.
Yeah.
And so when he eventually did get out, it's just another season of Justified.
Well, to me, it was just all too anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Like, you build up to this, you tease that somebody is gonna die, this is the end of the series, and then nothing happens.
I could have done without the Ava stuff, but I think we're gonna have to agree to disagree.
Yeah, and it didn't even necessarily have to be Ava. Like, I would have been fine with Boyd dying too.
Yeah, I think I would have liked if Boyd died, because I think he deserved to die. He was not a good person. Sure, he loved Ava, and that was kind of sweet. He definitely had a heart to him, but he was not a good person. And deep down, I think Ava and Raylan are good people.
How good is Walton Goggins, though? Like,
yeah, he's fantastic.
He's great as Boyd. And I think in a different timeline, he would have been an awesome Joker. Like, I was thinking about this show, and he really is Raylan's Joker. Like, if Raylan's Batman,
for sure.
Walton Goggins, like, is the Joker throughout this whole show. He's always a constant. He's always in the background, even when it's not about him. And I was, like, looking at his face, and I'm like, he could, like, his big smile, like, he could have been a good Joker, I think. If he,
he would have been alright.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just a weird thought. But,
I don't think he's damaged enough.
Yeah. This cast.
That was a joke.
I already moved on. This kid, just talking about him though, this entire cast, like, it was so great watching them all work together and.
Oh, for sure.
The one thing, just back to the finale really quick, the way that it did end, it really bookended the show really well. Like, you open up the show with Ava killing Bowman and like that kind of starting things between her, Boyd, and Raylan.
Sure.
And then you bookend it the way that you do with those same three characters. I really appreciated that.
And they also started off the show with Raylan in Miami. And they kind of finish it with him in Miami.
I guess it makes sense, but I'm kind of bummed him and Winona didn't end up working out. Like, they have that episode in the final season where she's like, what did you say you'd give us, 50-50? He goes, 51-49.
Yeah.
And
I actually kind of liked it. Because they weren't gonna work out.
Yeah, he didn't seem very happy there at the end. Like, he's hanging out with his daughter, and that's cute, and then stepdad comes and swings in, and they go off and they live their life, and he's just still doing his thing, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it would have worked out.
Yeah. He's a loose cannon. Can't chain him down. Not Raylan.
He doesn't play by the rules.
That's right. Rogue cop doesn't play by the rules.
So you just kind of want to cap it off with just your overall thoughts on the show?
Yeah, I mean, this show for me was always enjoyable to watch. I'll be honest, some episodes were better than others, some seasons were better than others. There's definitely gaps in my mind when I think back to the show, and I think that sometimes may speak to the quality. I don't think that this show was always on point, and there were times where I found it a little boring. That being said, I stuck with it for 6 seasons, so it was doing something right. And I think a lot of that has to do with Timothy Olyphant and Walton Goggins and the cast.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
Creating these characters that I really cared about, especially Raylan. Like, Raylan Givens will be he'll be one of my favorite characters of all time when it's all said and done, because I just really appreciated I hate to use this word, I appreciated the swagger that character had throughout the show, and just how he handled himself as a U.S. Marshal. I thought that was really compelling.
I think this show will be forgotten because it does have its moments where it's not necessarily on point, like you said. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would suggest, if you haven't watched it, definitely check it out. I think there's going to be a lot of parts that, if you like these kind of character-driven dramas, you'll enjoy Justified. Season 5's not that great, like we talked about. But I think I agree with you that in the history of television, I think it'll be forgotten, but it's a solid show, and I'm glad that I watched it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't regret sticking with it for 6 years.
Yeah, definitely not. All right. So our last segment of the podcast is just plainly titled Nerd Favorite, where we just kind of ask each other what your favorite blank is. We go back and forth each episode. So it's my episode. And I'm just going to plainly say, since we've been talking about Justified, I'm just going to ask you what your favorite Timothy Olyphant performance, whether that's TV, movies. I mean, he's mostly known for his movies. So whatever you want, just a performance in general. For me, it's pretty easy answer. The Crazies. I love that movie. It's just great. What are you looking for?
You have a Crazies poster, and it's the original Crazies.
It's on my living room.
Yeah, I was like, I can't remember if that poster's in this room or if it's in his living room.
That's gonna go well on an audio podcast. Anyways, I mean, The Crazies is just fantastic. It's one of those movies that I've probably seen, I would say, at least 30 to 50 times. I watch it every Shocktober, and usually I'll watch it.
You've seen that movie 30 to 50 times in the last 5 or 6 years?
Yep. I watched that movie every day for about a week and a half one time. Yeah. So.
No, more power to you. I mean, it's a good, I enjoy it.
I watch it every Shocktober, and there are still things that I find that I like about it. It doesn't get old for me. There's just something about it. I think it's Timothy Olyphant's charisma in the movie. He kind of plays a Raylan-esque character in The Crazies. It just kind of, something about his character kind of draws me to that movie. And it's fantastic. I love it. Right. It's actually one of the worst, movie theater experiences I've ever had in my life, because there was some stupid kids that were on their phone kind of getting up and chit-chatting a lot, and it was irritating the shit out of me. It irritated me even more because I was really digging the movie, and then they kind of kept getting me out of the feel of the movie. So.
Yeah, that blows. I hate that.
Yeah, but that is definitely by far my favorite Timothy Olyphant performance.
All right, cool.
So what's yours?
Well, if I'm being honest, it's Justified, but to keep things interesting and not keep talking about Justified, I'm going to say, Actually, this might be a little weird. It's The Girl Next Door. Have you seen it?
Yeah. The juice is worth the squeeze.
Like, this movie, I remember.
Okay, that's the episode title.
This movie, I remember seeing trailers for it when it was coming out and just thinking, whatever, it's just like another dumb teen comedy. And one of my friends was like, no, it's actually really good. And it is, I mean, it's not like the best movie ever made, but it's a solid watch. I own it on DVD, and it's a fun watch. Emil Hirsch and Alicia Cuthbert. No,
yeah,
Alicia Cuthbert.
You must have watched a different movie than I did.
They're great in it. And Timothy Olyphant plays like this sleazy porn director or porn mogul, named Kelly, and he just does it perfectly. He's like the best villain ever in this show, in this movie. And, he's just so slimy, and the things he does throughout it. He plays a really great slimy character, and he's hilarious. So I would say that is my second favorite Timothy Olyphant performance. It's I was going through his filmography just now thinking about what my favorite performance of his would be, and it's kind of disappointing he hasn't had more meaty roles.
Yeah.
Like, maybe now that Justify's over, he can kind of get out there and do some better stuff. I hate to say that because he's been in some interesting things, but I think Raylan was like his big role, and now I'm ready to see him do some other big roles.
Sure.
All right, man.
All right. So I guess that'll about do it. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at The Nerds Podcast. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Nerds Podcast. Check us out on Google Plus and our new YouTube channel, The Nerds You're Looking For. I guess YouTube channel. I don't know what you call it. Check us out at Indie PopCon at the end of June. Vote for us for Podcast of the Month at podcastland.com. And definitely check out our blog, thenerdspodcast.com, where we both, I guess just mostly me, we just post about different, movies, TV, mostly reviews. I just posted earlier today, I posted my review of the special edition Blu-ray of The Babadook, which was one of my favorite movies of 2014. So definitely check that out. I think that's about it. Did I forget anything? Oh, email us at the nerds you're looking for at gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, any suggestions for future episodes, definitely email us there.
All right, cool. I think that's it. You said the YouTube page?
Yep.
All right, sweet.
Awkwardly, but I did say it. For Patrick Hood,
Tyler Hunt,
we are the nerds you're looking for. Take it easy, guys.
See you guys.